Today, Richard reviews his own car. This beautiful lady is my very own 2013 Audi S4. I've been owning it for about 4 years and I've put on it around 150,000 kilometers. So I know it pretty well. This generation of Audi is the B8.5, which was produced between 2013 and 2016 and acted up as a facelifted version of the B8, which was from between 2010 and 2012. Under the hood is a 3-liter supercharged V6 with 333 horsepower and around 325 pound-feet of torque. This S4 shares the same engine as its predecessor, so the B8, has the same power, 333 horsepower, 325 pound-feet of torque, but the differences are very noticeable when you look at the car. There's a whole facelift going on inside and out. So why do people love this car? Well, this has 333 horsepower, as I said. It has Quattro All Wheel Drive. It has 7-speed dual clutch DSG transmission with lightning quick paddle shifts. It has a very good luxury. It has very good tech for its year. And it's being sold for around 20,000 Canadian dollars right now. This is an amazing deal. So please join me as I review my own car. I'm going to tell you what I like about it, what I hate about it, and why I think it's the best generation of models that Audi has ever made. First off, let's talk about the rear of this car. In my opinion, Audi has always made really good looking cars. You have the nice badge in the middle, surrounded by 2 nice LED tail lights that look absolutely gorgeous when you're driving at night. And then in the bottom, you have the quad exhaust tailpipes, which are real. That is the big difference between the new models and the older models, which is this one. The newer Q5, so the Q5's even released today, has fake exhaust tips. Even the SQ5, you're paying 60 grand for an SUV and you still get fake exhaust pipes, which is absolutely infuriating. The S4 back then in 2013, even today, you have real quad exhaust tailpipes and they sound pretty good. Take a listen. Next up, I want to talk about the wheels of this car, which look absolutely amazing. They're really good looking, but the main feature about them is that they are 19 inches wheels. It may sound like not so much, but consider this. This car is built roughly on the same shape and dimensions as a Volkswagen Jetta. It's basically the same frame, meaning that those wheels are pretty big for this car. They're also mounted on 255 tires on all 4 wheels, meaning that these tires are really big. It may not seem like it when you look at it from the side, but when you take a look at it from the rear and slowly look at the rear of this car, you can see just how wide these tires are and how good they look. They really help with cornering and more spirited driving. Next up, I want to address the V60 situation. Oh, the V60. On the side of the S4s, basically all S4 from this model, you can see V60, which is supposed to stand for V6 Turbo. But as most of you know, this car is not even turbocharged, it is supercharged. So it should be V6S or V6 supercharged or something different. Fun fact, the last turbocharged S4 dates all the way back from the B5 era, which was released between 1997 and 2002. This car had a 2.7-liter twin turbocharged V6 engine, which made about 261 horsepower. Then you had the B6 S4, which a V8 that was naturally aspirated, 4.2 liter of power and raw sound that made around 338 horsepower. Then you moved to the B7, which had the same engine, so the same V8, 4.2 liter with around 343 horsepower. And then in 2010, Audi introduced the 3-liter supercharged V6 for the B8 model and then the B8.5. It was the beginning at that time of the generation of smaller engines with forced induction. Eventually in 2017, Audi moved up to the B9 generation, which is the one that we know today. And for the S models, they've switched over the supercharger for an actual turbocharger, meaning that we have the real V60 at last. So there you have it, V60. Probably stands for V6 supercharger. Next up, we take a look at the front of the car, which in my opinion is where this car shines the most. In 2013, Audi really struck gold with this continuous LED pattern for their daytime running lights, which was a massive upgrade from the previous model, the B8, which was again from 2010 to 2012, which had those dotted LEDs. It just did not look as good, did not look as aggressive as this now, which looks like it is some sort of Black Panther ready to pounce at you and prowling at you. But the front end of this car has always looked phenomenal to me, and it just looks absolutely brilliant now. Of course, it does not come standard with this grille. This is an RS4 replica grille that I bought online. This is the only aesthetic modification that I've made to this car. I think it looks much better that way. It should have come out that way from the factory, but if you live in Europe or UK and get an RS4 from this year, this is the grille you're supposed to get. It looks so much better. Of course, it comes standard with HID headlights on the front. This S4 also comes standard with parking headlights. Let me tell you what it is. If you're pulling in your driveway at under 20 kilometers an hour and you put the turn signal into either side and then turn your steering wheel as you're going in your driveway, there will be one automatic little headlight that's going to project light into your driveway. And this little light will project just enough light for you to see where you're going in complete darkness. It works really well. Impossible to show it during the daytime, but it works really well. Next, I want to talk about the side mirror here because there's a few little things about them. First off, as you notice, they are silver. The rest of the car is completely black, but somehow my mirror assembly is completely silver. Now, why is that? The reason for that is all S series from Audis have the same kind of mirror. They're all silver. Regardless of the body color of your S4 or S5, it will always be silver. There's no way you can buy an S4 that is all black with black side mirrors. They're always silver. So that's one way that you can differentiate an S4 from an A4 is with the side mirror. So if you see behind you an S4 or an A4 and you're not sure, look at the mirrors. If they're silver, that is an S. Speaking of side mirror, one cool feature about this side mirror is the blind spot monitor. Now you might ask me, what is so exciting about a blind spot monitor? Well, this one is very different than mostly other cars. See, in your car, your blind spot monitor is going to be right on the mirror. It's going to be right on the glass itself. It will be this one little logo that's going to flash yellow when there's a car in your blind spot, and then when you turn around to turn in your next lane, you see this and you realize, oh, there's a car, and then you look at your blind spot, you see there's a car there. Easy enough. In this car, however, it is made differently. The blind spot monitor is not on the glass itself. It's going to be on the assembly. It's right on the mirror facing inside. It's this very little spot right here that you cannot see from the outside very well, but once you're sitting in there, you see it very well. So as you're driving on the highway, let's say there's a car coming on the passing lane on the left, and then the blind spot monitor system spots it, it will just send a bit of electricity in the LEDs. So the LEDs are just going to be turned on just a tiny bit, but you can still see them very well, especially at night. If, however, you make the unforgivable mistake of putting your left turn signal as this car is coming, your LEDs are going to flash like you've never seen before. There is just no way you're going to turn left if that happens. Trust me, it's just insanely bright. It's very well made, and I wish all cars did it that way. Okay, one last thing about the mirror is the automatic tint. Check this out. In the center right here underneath the rear view mirror, you have a sensor. And this sensor is going to detect obviously if it's daytime or nighttime. If it is nighttime, it's going to send a signal to your mirrors to automatically tint. This makes a huge difference at night as you're driving. If you have a semi truck behind you on the highway, its lights are going to be much higher than you are on the highway. So in this case, what happens is that they're going to be shooting in your mirrors. It's going to blind you. It's going to be terrible at night. But with those mirrors, they will be automatically tainted at night, meaning that the impact of those lights on the mirror to come back in your eyes is going to be so much decreased, and it's going to make your drive so much more comfortable. A really good feature, and I wish every car has had it. And now if we move under the hood, let's take a look at it. So press the button inside the cabin. This lifts up. You press this little switch right here, and it all opens up mostly automatically. Not much to say about here. V6 3.0 supercharged engine with 333 horsepower, about 325 pound-feet of torque. This is a really good engine. It is very well known into the tuning industry. A lot of people are modifying those to some pretty good numbers as well. All right, now let's talk about the interior of this car. One of the first things that I noticed when I sat in here was how much I liked it. Everything feels quality. Everything you touch feels like it is quality. Everywhere you look, it looks like it is made out of pure quality materials. And unfortunately, that did not follow with the newer Audi generations, which were filled with cheap plastic. About a year ago, I had to drive this into the dealership for some maintenance, and they gave me a loaner. And the loaner that they gave me was a 2020 Audi Q5. And it was just ridiculously cheap inside. Everything was cheap plastic. This car, when it came out in 2013, had an MSRP of $53,000. And when you sit in here, back in 2013, you definitely feel like you've spent money on something and you see what you've spent money on. The newer Audis, unfortunately, not so much. You're sitting down into a brand new Audi and you look around and it feels like it should be much cheaper than what it costs. Now let's talk about the steering wheel for a second here. The steering wheel in the previous generation looked like this. It was outdated. It did not look sporty at all, even though it was an S4. The new one, however, was a grand slam. If you take a look at this here, you have 3 spokes with buttons on each side, flat bottom steering wheel with beautiful stitching all around, some very thick grip on the 9 and 3. It's a perfect steering wheel, and in my honest opinion, it's probably one of the best that was ever made, let alone just by Audi. It's my favorite steering wheel that I've ever had in my hands. Very close competitor would be the Jaguar F-Type R that I drove last summer. But this steering wheel has always done it for me. I absolutely love it. If you take a look on the right side of the steering wheel, you have this person screaming, and if you press this button, it's going to launch the voice recognition system. Very simple system for its time, but it's still pretty good even for today. Press this button and then the car will listen to you and you can give it commands such as this. Nearest gas station.
Next gas station. Please enter the line.
You can also open navigation, ask to call someone, that kind of stuff. It's very basic commands, but still in 2013, voice recognition system in a car, pretty cool. On the left side, you have the mode selector, which says mode. If you press this button, it's going to control the center cluster screen here, and it's going to allow you to select various different screen options that you have here. So you have this one, you can use this, you can go on the radio, you can see your miles per gallon, you can see your fuel efficiency in real time, that kind of stuff. It's pretty basic, but it's still a good screen, especially considering what it was before. Before, it looked like this. On the previous generation, it was all red and pixelated. It did not look as good as it does today, that's for sure. So that was a big upgrade. That was the big upgrade number 1 after the steering wheel. One more thing that differentiates the S4 from the A4 that you may not know about is the needle dance. All right, so when you start the car, in this car, the needles are going to start at the 0. This is the stationary position, and whenever you start the car, the needles are going to do something like this. They're going to be going all the way to the end and then come back, and then the car starts and everybody's happy. This is not something that you have in any A models all the way up to A7. Meaning that if you wanted to have the needle dancing, you had to either go into the secret menu inside the MMI, which was a headache to deal with, or you could buy an A7, which did it at the cost of, you know, a liver transplant. Speaking of S4, there's not that many S4 badges in here. If you take a look at the interior, there's only a few that you can see. There's one on the steering wheel, there is one in the gauge cluster, there's also one on the shifter right here, and you also have one in the footwell when you enter your car. Other than that, you have 2 on the seats. That's pretty much it. It's nice to see that you only had a few S4s in here, reminding you of your supremacy, but still that you had to stay in place. There's only 5 or 6 badges in total that you can see around here that says S4, which in my opinion is just enough. You kind of want to see them, but you don't want to be completely blasted by them. Shout out to STI. All right, next up, I want to cover the seats. If we take a look at the seats here, I have black leather on all of mine. These came in various different combinations of colors and material. For example, you had this one that was red in the center and white. You could also have this one that was black around, and then you had white leather in the center. Also had Alcantara that was black on black. You had Alcantara with blue. You had leather white, red, brown saddle. There was a few combinations you could have. In my case, I have black on black. I love it. I think it's subtle. I think it's sporty, and the all leather seats are really, really nice. One more thing, as I said, they are heated, so you can heat your seats. You have 3 different level of heating seats that you can have. You have memory seats as well on the door panel here. So you have 3 different buttons. You have the first one that is off, so it turns it off. You have 1 and 2, which are the 2 profiles available, and then you have set. So if you want to create one, you move the seat the way you want to, and then you set the number. So let's say you move it and then you press set, and 1 is going to be your number 1 seat. That's how it's going to be. Other than that, the seats are really nicely stitched as well. If you take a look at the sides here, they're really comfortable too. They're nicely bolstered. I've been driving this car for a lot of miles. As I said, about 150,000 kilometers over the last 4 years. I was commuting a lot throughout the country, so I was driving a lot of big miles on the highway, and I traveled with this car a lot. Very comfortable, very reliable. The only issue is obviously these are sporty seats, so you do feel the road a bit, but they are still very comfortable and they bolster you very well. All right, next up, I want to talk about the navigation system in here. This car dates from 2013, as I said. However, the map is probably the best looking one I've ever seen, and even in today's cars. If you look it up here during nighttime, it looks absolutely astonishing. It looks so good. The 3D mapping is very well made. The streets, the resolutions, everything is really, really well made. I love it. It's very intuitive. It's pretty easy to use. The major point about this navigation system, in my opinion, yes, there is the voice control, so you can ask the map to get you somewhere vocally, which is pretty cool. There's also this 3D building that is available in here, and let me show you. So let's say you're on the map right here, and we're driving and whatever, and you want to see what it looks like in downtown Boston. Well, you basically go to Boston on the map, so you zoom out far enough and then go towards Boston, and when you're in downtown, zoom in, let the processor die a bit, and then it will zoom in downtown Boston for you. And then you'll see the actual 3D buildings of Boston as you're driving. And this is available in most major cities in North America. It's pretty fantastic. You can drive in there, and I've tested it in Montreal and other cities where I went, and you see the buildings in real time in 3D. This is absolutely amazing. For 2013, your $80 Garmin GPS did not have that. No. Now, still speaking about that navigation system, if you don't want to use the voice and you want to give yourself a living nightmare, you can use the wheel here in the center to select where you want to go. So you go into the menu and then select the city, and then you have to type the city letter by letter using this wheel, which is an absolute nightmare to do. I do not recommend that to anyone. So if you can use your vocal cords to command where you go, please do it, because you will hate yourself forever if you use this wheel. That is the one thing I hate the most about this whole car, is using the wheel to navigate. I wish we had a pad. I wish we could use vocally a bit easier, because the system is still pretty outdated. But yeah, using the wheel for navigation is a terrible nightmare. Touchscreen would have been so much easier. Let's talk about the entertainment in the 2013 S4, okay? The very first thing that I want to point out is the sound system. This S4 has the Bang & Olufsen 14-speaker sound system. It sounds absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, as I'm filming this, I cannot just get you to listen to the Bang & Olufsen system. It's just not going to sound as good as if you were sitting in the car with me. But trust me on this, it sounds amazing. The 14-speaker sound system is my favorite I've ever had in any car. It sounds very crisp. It is fully configurable as well inside the Bang & Olufsen system within the entertainment system. There's this own chapter in there that you can use, and it just feels amazing. It sounds really, really good. It's my favorite sound system. The helicopter does not care. Now, other than the sound, you have two SD slots here. So if you press on this button open, you have a little tab opening up, and you can see there's two SD card slots, which is pretty cool. For 2013, you have that available. It may not be a recent technology now, but back in 2013, that was pretty good. So you can use those SD cards to put in their music that you can listen locally if you don't have a phone with you for whatever reason. You can also put videos in there, movies, that kind of stuff. Obviously, for security purposes, you can only watch video files as you're stationary. But that's still a pretty cool feature. One cool part about the interior is the butt warmers. As I said, these seats are completely heated in 3 different levels. So you have one button here that you can press. If you press it once, it goes to 3, and then you can reduce it for your butt warming needs. Underneath, you have a blank switch, as you guys can see, and unfortunately, that's where I would have had my cooled seats, but I do not have it in this car. I would have needed to purchase a higher trim, even a higher model. I don't believe cooled seats are available in the 4 series. Anyways, let's talk about the car menu. The car menu has several little things that can be looked at. The first one here is the maintenance. You can go into the maintenance and see how many miles you have left until your next maintenance. Next up, this car has a moonroof. Nothing too crazy about it. There is a button that you can press to tilt it, and there's a button you can twist to be able to open it completely. It is a bit confusing at first because there's apparently 6 different levels of opening my moonroof in this car, but that's a German car and that's what you have to expect. Next up, let's talk about heating. This car has dual climate control, which you would expect with a car with that sticker price. One fun thing is that you can select it to half a degree, and that's something that's been in Audi's car forever, all the way up to my B6 A4 that I owned years ago. I had that option as well. I don't know who selects half a degree, but it's there if you want it. So if you want to be at 28 Celsius here and you want to be at 19.5 on this side, I love how Audi thinks, people want to have 26.5 degrees and they will know the difference, so let's create a system that lets them do it, yet they write V6T and they think we're not gonna notice. Just adorable. All right, next up, I want to talk about the window switches in the door panel. There's one thing that I really hate about those, and I'm not the only one. The thing is that they're made in an angle. Normally, your window switches would be either flat or declined. Those ones are inclined, meaning that they're really, really close to hand when you're sitting. So whenever you want to toggle them, you have to move your arm back, and it makes your shoulder position a bit awkward, especially if you're not so tall. I'm 6 feet tall, so it's not that much of a problem. If somebody shorter drives this, they're going to have the switches way back because their seat is going to be back in the front. So in my opinion, that's a bit of a problem. It does not feel good because you always have to shrug as you're trying to just use those buttons. It is just not well made. One more thing about the interior is cup holders. The cup holder situation in this car has always been a bit problematic, to say the least. You have 2 cup holders in the center console. Right here, you have one on each doors. Those on the doors are fine. They're made for bottles and whatnot. They're a bit of an angle. That's okay. But the ones in the center, however, they are quite annoying. You have a big one and you have a small one. So you can put a regular sized drink in the front, but you cannot put it in the back. I have this can here, so if I put it here, it's loose, it's fine. But if I put it in the back, I really have to push it for it to fit in there. And it's just flimsy, it's just weird. It's 2 different levels. It's just not good, and there's definitely the space to do it. If you take a look at the cup holder situation, you see there is plenty of space to put 2 regular sized cup holders. For whatever reason, Audi gave you a big one and a small one, so you deal with it. And now let's talk back seats. There's not much to say, it's very simple. Not a lot of room. This is a compact car. You don't have much room. It is a sedan, but it is compact. My legs are right against the seat. The seats are exactly where I would be placing them if I was sitting in the front. I'm 6 feet tall and my legs are digging against the seat. So definitely tight space here. You do, however, have a few cup holders. So you have one on the door on each side, and then you have this, the armrest. Not much to say about it. It's a nicely padded armrest. It's pretty soft. You can rest your arm on it as it intends to. There's not much to say about it other than the fact that there's a little compartment here that you can hide stuff in, which is nicely padded, nicely carpeted. It feels good, it feels nice. And then you have the very German over-designed cup holders. So if you press this little button here, the cup holders are going to come up to life. And then you can store more drinks if you believe in miracles, because this is definitely going to break. One good piece of over-designed German car interior. If you believe in miracles, you can set your drinks in there and hope for the best. Now, you can also adjust your climate controls here in the back. So you have one wheel for the airflow, which is pretty simple. You simply turn it if you want more air and turn it the other way if you want less air. On the other side, you do not have this cool screens that you see in today's car. In fact, what you do have is a simple wheel that says hot on one side and cold on the other. So you simply turn it and you hope that it works. Fortunately, there's no heated seats, no cold seats, nothing in the back here. It's very, very basic. And now, well, speaking of wheels here, let's grab that one and go for a drive. All right, so driving my baby. I love that car, absolutely love it. I've owned it, as I said, for about, I want to say around 4 years. And during that time, I have been very, very active with this car. I've been driving it about 150,000 kilometers, as I said. This car has been incredibly reliable. First thing I want to say is this car has been very reliable. I've owned it for 4 years, as I said, and I have driven 150,000 kilometers. I expected things to break on this car, but it never did. The only thing that I ever had to do, and it was under warranty, that was when the steering column decided to give. Unfortunately, when that happened, the power steering goes out and it starts to make some sort of noise. It's kind of weird. And in that case, that's what it was. It was simply the driving column that I had to change. It was a job of a few $1,000s, but thankfully I had warranty to take care of it, so I didn't have to worry about it. That's the only thing that ever let me down with this car. Other than that, it's been perfectly reliable. Simple maintenance, oil, brake, that kind of stuff, but anything else, never. Maintenance, keep it up to date, you'll be fine. These cars are incredibly reliable. The only issue that is known with these cars, and it's for the B8 generation, so if you can get your hands on that car, get the B8.5, this one. Don't get the B8. Reason being is that the B8, they have this mechatronic-ish module that controls your DSG transmission, and sometimes it's going to shit the bed. It's literally going to. And in that case, you need to change it. It costs a whole bunch of money. It's very, very, very pricey. And if you own a B8, or if you've known anyone who owns a B8 and he has a DSG transmission, you've heard about the mechatronic issue. That's just one big problem. All right, so we're driving here in traffic. We're just heading up out of town. I want to go on the highway for a bit. I want to show you how this car reacts and how it works and all that. So obviously this is an automatic, so I don't have to worry about switching gears and all that. I'm just going to let it on drive mode. There's 3 different modes in this car. There is drive and then there is sport. I'm currently in drive. If I want to move to sport, I simply hold this little lever, the gear selector, and I press it down once. If I do that, it switches from D to S in my gauge cluster on the bottom, and then I see that I'm in sport mode. Already I can see that the throttle response is a bit more aggressive. Car is going to stay at higher rev all the time, 1 gear over type of thing. The one thing to remember about the S4 is that it is a luxury sport sedan without any pretension. It does not pretend to be a Mercedes S-Class because it's clearly not. It's not the same level at all. It does not claim to be an RS series because it is an S. In my opinion, this car is the best level you can get. It's right in the mid 300 horsepower, which is in my opinion the perfect number to drive around and commute every day. You have the power when you need it. It is all-wheel drive with Quattro, which is absolutely phenomenal here in Canada. And it also has 7-speed dual clutch transmission with lightning quick shifts with paddle shifters in the back of the steering wheel. This car has it all. It's got every luxury feature I could dream of for 2013, and they're selling for 20 grand. That's about 16,000 US dollars here in Canada. It's a joke, and you're gonna get them at pretty good mileage with really good condition and different trims and whatnot, but still between 16 and 25,000, you're definitely finding something on either Auto Trader or anything pan-Canadian. You're gonna find something for sure, and this car has it all. What you can also do is switch to manual mode, which is a whole different ball game. So if you got it here in drive, you move over to the right side, and then you can see that the plus and minus become lightened. That means that it has switched over to your paddle shifters, which are behind the steering wheel. Both hands on steering wheel, and just the lightning fast DSG transmission from Audi is absolutely the best. It was the best at the time in 2013. This car is bone stock, right? I haven't changed anything to the car. Mechanically speaking, it is completely bone stock. There's no chip, there's no nothing, but there's a huge market for it. People are buying these cars and making monsters out of them. They go single pulley supercharger, they put a lot of pressure on this, and it's just a monster afterwards. All right, cornering here, we're just entering a highway, so we are on a ramp. It is Canada, it is winter, so I'm being a bit extra careful, but this car grips. Right now I'm on winter tires, so obviously it's not the best, but this car grips, let me tell you this. It really, really does. Go here. Oh, whoa. This car goes, let me tell you, it wants to go. It's just not gonna stop taking whatever you give it, and it's gonna ask for more and more and more. And that's why I'm telling you, this car has it all. It's got good luxury, it's got really good tech, it's super comfortable to drive around and cruise on a highway for a certain time, and whenever you want to have some fun with it, switch it over in sport or manual mode, and you're good to go. You're gonna have some fun. Just a really good car. And it's just comfortable. It's just very comfortable. There's not much going on around. I hear a very, very small road noise. Obviously, I'm on winter tires right now. These tend to be a bit more noisy, but they're still very, very comfortable to drive around. Now, I'm just cruising on the highway, as I said, and I can't really hear what's happening outside. I feel like the cabin is all insulated, and that's one thing I really wanted to address, is how everything in here is quality-wise. When you close the door, you feel the thud. Everything is tough. It's made to last, it feels like. And I feel like the newer Audis, unfortunately, have stopped doing that. They're all doing cheap plastic in here to save costs, and it kind of sucks. The powertrain might be better, the technology might be better than the newer Audis, I'll give them that. You know, you have the virtual cockpit, which this one doesn't have, but it's just not necessary in my opinion, because the navigation system is pretty cool. It is cool to have this, don't get me wrong, to have the navigation inside your gauge cluster and the virtual cockpit and whatnot. It's fantastic, I agree, but I personally don't need it. And for 20 grand, you get so much stuff. That one thing I want to mention, gas mileage. Incredibly enough, this car is very good on gas. I'm not even kidding. This vehicle gets me about 7.2, 7.3 liters per 100 kilometers. So I don't know how much MPGs that is, but 7.5 for 100 kilometers on the highway, cruising along on the highway, and not being shy about passing other cars, right? about 7.2, 7.3 liters per 100 kilometers, which is really, really good for an all-wheel drive luxury sport sedan with a supercharged V6, 300 and something horsepower, and a lot of spirited driving on the highway. That's a very, very good fuel efficiency. It's surprising. Obviously, the fact that you have a 7th gear is helping a lot. That 7th gear on the highway cruises at about, well, let's put it on now. I'm going 103 and I'm cruising at 1,500 RPM. So, if you enjoyed this video, please do hit like and subscribe and whatnot. You don't have to, but I'm just telling you. I plan on doing more of those, not with this car. I'm gonna go through like dealerships and ask people to lend me their car so I can review it. I tend to do more of those videos. This is my car, so that's why I had to do it as a first video. I appreciate you watching it. If you have any comments, suggestions, feel free to shoot them in the bottom here. I'm gonna take a look at them for sure. But yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, that's the Audi S4. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you're looking for one, make sure to look online here in Canada. They're dirt cheap, as I said, in very good conditions, and it's not a purchase you're gonna regret. Obviously, if you can get a extended warranty on those cars, that's something you'll want to do because it is expensive if something breaks. Nothing has broken in this car yet. I'm cruising at 192,000 kilometers. Nothing has broken yet except that steering column I mentioned, but it was under warranty, so I was okay. But I'm stepping in no warranty water right now, and if something breaks, I'm going to pay out of my ass for it. But I'm not worried because so far I've been taking very good care of this car and it's given back to me a lot. So I've been enjoying this. Hope you've enjoyed as well. And cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.